It's very important that you know the company that sent me this pre-production model. They've already told me the balanced output on the rear are going to be changed and asked me not to test those. And going into this review, I had high expectations that this $1,000 DAC amp would be heading straight for a showdown with my beloved RME ADI-2 FS. So I was curious what this new offering would bring to the table. I also knew, going into this review, that there are a lot of fanboys out there who will attack anything you say negative about their beloved company. Well, that's not who the Scientific Audiophile is. At the Scientific Audiophile, we will never hold back on criticizing any person, company, or even anime character.
That's not your attitude when I criticize bitch.
That's because Bish hasn't played one wrong note in her entire life. Don't get mad at the mean old woman, Helmholtz. She's just mean. So this is the $999 estimated MSRP DAC headphone amp that Rose Technics sent me. It can be used in a desktop or dedicated stereo setup. A wise man once said that we can complain that rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice that thorn bushes have roses. Today's review is going to be more about the prior. This case is different. Top and bottom surfaces appear to have some kind of rubber latex covering. It gives them a soft feel. The sides and back are machined and very nice. The wood isn't real, some type of hard plastic. Looks are definitely something that is up to the individual, but personally, it doesn't give off a luxury feel to me, and I'm not in love with the looks at all. Unlike the RME ADI-2, there is a Bluetooth input. I used the antenna from my Toppin D3 Pro Plus, since the pre-production unit didn't include one. But unlike the ADI-2, there is no remote, and there's no EQ. One of the biggest issues you're going to run into with this unit is you really don't know what setting you're on. So only by clicking the gain button, which is gold on gold, and listening for a change, do you know that you've changed gain mode. The lowest gain mode at full power could only power my easy to drive Dan Clark Aeon open headphones to low listening modes. The second gain mode could get to moderate listening levels. The third gain mode could get moderately loud. The fourth and the highest gain mode could get loud. Difficult to drive headphones might require the highest gain mode just to get moderately loud. You may have to use the 4.4 millimeter balanced output to use low sensitive headphones because that jumps up to 1.6 milliwatts as spec'd by the company. But the 6.35 millimeter output is only spec'd at 800 milliwatts. Again, I'm assuming that's in the highest gain mode because in low gain mode, it wasn't very loud at all. There are 7 filters on the Rose Technics, and just like everything else, you don't know what filter you're in. The manual just says long press the gain button until you see a white light flash. And then by counting how many times that white light flashes will tell you if you're in filter 1, filter 2, filter 3, etc. all the way to 7. Now I found no audible differences between the filters, which is a good thing, but not knowing which filter you're on, not knowing what gain mode you're on, the gold on gold lettering just doesn't work for me. The volume button does have a nice feel. Other than that, the build quality is decent, but doesn't approach the RME ADI-2. I've seen the RME selling for now $11.50 without even looking for coupons or discounts. So for $150 less at $999, I was expecting a much nicer case and user interface than what we got. You know, it all starts with power. A dip switch on the rear either makes you want to keep it on forever or ensure it's not near a wall because reaching it is a pain in the butt. There's no power button in the front. Not knowing what filter you're using until you long press to count the white lights and then you've actually just changed the filter is at best annoying. The mute button works, but you don't know if you're on mute or not. No light. Sure, some would argue that if you don't hear any sound, you're muted. But in the lowest gain mode, I had to go nearly 1/5 up the volume dial just to begin hearing any sound at all. And I've got easy to drive headphones, so that mute button can be a little bit confusing at times. The Bluetooth light, once you try to invoke Bluetooth, once that stays on and starts blinking, it never goes off. So, and once it's on, even if you do get a connection, you only can use Bluetooth by flipping the Bluetooth switch in the rear. So you don't know if you're on Bluetooth input or not, you just got to listen. If you shut off Bluetooth from your phone, this blinking blue light will blink forever. How much nicer would it have been to have a nice LCD display with a little icon that appeared showing that no Bluetooth is currently present, or at least not flash when I'm not even selecting Bluetooth as an input, and only flash when I'm trying to use the Bluetooth input. The gold buttons and plate look more cheap than refined. I did like the sound quality of the unit. I thought the DAC in here was excellent. I think the amp is underpowered, and in high gain modes, it would seem to break down a little bit when you're pushing it, and I have, again, easy to drive headphones. I don't know how this would sound in hard to drive headphones when you're cranking up that volume knob probably close to max. I had to crank it up about 70% of the way in high gain mode to really listen critically to some of the greater songs that Diane Bush puts out. And it was good until it just got past that 70% mark in highest gain mode, and you'd start to hear it just break down a little bit, and a little bit of distortion would set in. But the DAC itself was excellent, and so if you're going to output this to something else and not use the headphone amp, it's probably not a problem. Overall conclusion, this does not compete with my beloved RME ADI-2 FS. It does have Bluetooth, but it does not have an excellent interface. Doesn't tell you what's happening. The RME might be a confusing interface to actually use, but it does tell you on this LCD display exactly what's going on. The Rose Technics has no way of letting you know what's going on. You don't even know if you've got a Bluetooth input or not, because if you're trying to use the Bluetooth input, you got to flip the switch on the back. It feels like something retro from the 70s, if that's what they were going for with all the dip switches, with the weird lights. I mean, they achieved it. But if they're going for today, modern, high-tech, audiophile class DAC amp for $1,000, this does not, in my book, meet those standards. So I'm sorry to say, while I appreciate the company sent me the Rose Technics RS-5000, it's not up to the standards of the RME ADI-2 DAC, or even some of the higher end FiOS and toppings that are out there for less money. Rating. How do you rate a product that sounds good as long as you don't push it too hard, but doesn't quite meet the expectations of its $1,000 price range? Well, we're going to have to go with the obvious. It's going to be a Corona Extra with a hot dog, onions, and mustard. That's all for this edition of the Scientific Audiophile. Remember, we are still testing the FiO K9 and the most controversial headphones in history, the Verum ones. Stay tuned and subscribe and hit that notification button so you are ready when our next video drops.